Hi, Mike Brailsford, Brailsford Woodworks back again. Thank you all for joining me. Today I'm going to do a shop tour that I've been promising for quite a while. The shop, you can see, was finished in July of 2019. I started building parts for it in December of 2018. And I did my barn raising on March 30th, 2019, and between March and July, I was able to get it sufficiently closed in so I could move in and start using it. I've now finally gotten to the point where I won't say it's completely done. I'll be always tinkering with it, but it's in a finished condition as far as I'm concerned. Let's go take a look. Come on in. So the shop itself is 20 by 40 outside dimension. It has 5 bents. The columns are 6 by 8 by 12 foot loblolly and longleaf pine. I have cross ties, 5 cross ties that are 6 by 10 by 20s. The whole thing was put together in the most traditional method, mortise and tenon, held together with pegs. It's something I'm quite proud of. I've taken the interior is now walled in pine. I milled it down to 3/4 of an inch, various widths, and I put it up. I didn't put any finish on it. I just want it to develop its own patina with time. I've made several shelving units now that I've put on walls. Maybe eventually someday I'll make doors for them, make them into cabinets, but for now this will do. Over here I've used French cleats throughout the whole shop. I've got, here you can see I've got all my circular saws. So the front part of my shop, this is where all the dimensioning of lumber happens. I've got my table saw, I've got my Rockwell Unisaw. I think it's a 60s vintage, but I've upgraded it, put a new motor in it. I bought Delta Unifence, which you can't even get anymore. It's too bad because I love this fence. I think it's even better than the Biesmeyer fence. I put a sliding table on it, and it's made it quite useful. I love my saw. So in here, I can bring it in, I can bring my planer over, put it in front of the door, hook it to my vacuum, plane down my wood. I can bring it over to my miter station, cut it to whatever length I need, and over here I got my joiner and my table saw for straightening the boards and running them to whatever dimension I need. So over here I've made additional drawers, and I put most everything on wheels. It makes it so much easier to get behind, clean, and keep the shop as neat as possible. So this set of drawers was actually a cabinet that I had started to build for my last house. It was going to be the vanity in that bathroom for when my kids started to move out, when both my sons had left. And when time came to actually sell the house, we said heck with it and bought a vanity and stuck it in there. So I've been toting this around, and I finally said, you know what, this will look good in the shop. Put some wheels on it. I made drawers, and this top is all solid pine, but this came from crates that I had gotten from work, and just, you know, planed them, ran them through, glued them up, and made a nice solid top. And I've done, I think, 4 of them in the shop here. Over here I got a sanding station. I got my 12-inch disc sander. It's a Harbor Freight, one of the Harbor Freight tools that I've been really happy with. I got my small little belt sander. I use this mainly for sharpening. I use it for sharpening my skews for turning. Over here I've got my G0458 Grizzly drum sander. If you've seen the video, you know how I feel about this. And I've got my Ryobi oscillating spindle sander. It has been it's been an invaluable tool over the years. I've had it for many years. It's maybe not the stoutest of the oscillating spindle sanders, but for what I've done, it's been the ticket. Over here, I made this my router station. I've got my Lee D4 jig. I've had this for many years. I've used it a lot. I love this thing. And then I've put in shelving units, and I've got all my routers here. Got my two biggest ones here, and then the 1 horsepower. These are the 3 horsepowers and the 1 horsepower here, and I got a 2 horsepower up there as well. And I got a Bosch trimming router here that I use from time to time. I've put my scroll saw over here. I don't use it a lot, but I've had it for many years, and it's a Ryobi. It's never let me down when I've needed it. And in here, this is a crash cart I got from the hospital I work at, and I've used it. I've put trays in there for my planes, and for my chisels, and I got more planes down here. I've got a few more that I've added. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to put them in, but I'll figure out something. So in the whole shop, when I first had the pad poured, I had 4-inch PVC run through the floor. And it starts over there in the corner where I've got my dust collection system. Runs out, comes up, tees up here, runs down to the down a little ways and tees up there. But also has a tee here in the middle, and it shoots off to either side. And I'm going to at some point run it up and run it down the exterior, run it down the walls, so I can hit different units on the inside. So over here I have a wood stove for heating the shop. I had it for many years. Again, I've toted it around. When I got it, I had the whole assembly from the stove to the exterior chimney pipe, the double-walled pipe. I only had to buy a couple. I had to buy a new thimble for going through the wall, but that was okay. That wasn't that too expensive. But get it going in the morning and come out here for a North Carolina winter. If I let it go for a little while, it makes it comfortable in here. Is it going to be, will I be sweating? No, but it makes it so I can work out here in almost any cold day. So over here, I've got my Harbor Freight dust collection system. I know how a lot of you feel about Harbor Freight, but let me tell you something. This thing was 1.5 horsepower. It's a single stage, but I bought the Oneida Super Dust Deputy Cyclone, and I had a barrel, and I've made it into a 2-stage system, and it works great. Let me tell you something. Everything I've got there, I've got $250 into this thing. It's a steal compared to other dust collection systems out there. So over here, I now have my finished lathe station. You saw my lathe station renovation if you've watched my videos, but now I have it set up really the way I wanted it. I got all my tools. I got the lathe where I can now work on it and then clean both sides, because the way this hobby is that it just makes a mess. And when it's up against the wall and you have things back there, you constantly have to move everything to clean it out. Now I'll just be able to clean because I can get underneath it, get around it, and it'll be easier to do. And anything that flies behind me, I've left this wall open, so it'll fall down and I'll be able to clean it from here. Got all my sanding discs for my 2 and 3 inch sanders, my CA glues, activator. I got my waxes over here. I've got all my dye tints here, and I've got my sharpening station down here for the lathe. I mean, it's something you use constantly. I've got my Laguna BX18 bandsaw that I got. Anybody who does a lot of turning knows that a bandsaw is a pretty critical piece of equipment to have. This one has just been absolutely great. It's a very, very fine piece of equipment. I've got my Delta hollow chisel mortiser. I don't use it very much, but when I need it, when I do any kind of mortising on a more of a fine piece of furniture, it's a nice piece of equipment to have. Got my rigid drill press that I've had for many years. The amount that I use a drill press, it does everything I'll ever need. So in the future, the tools that I want to upgrade are my joiner, which I want to change to an 8-inch long bed with a spiral cut, and more of a stationary planer, something hopefully 20 inches wide. And oh yes, I'm getting rid of that Grizzly sander just as soon as I can manage it, because I don't trust it, I don't like it. So, future plans. Here in this section, I'm going to build a split top Revo bench. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to stick it here and have the back section for working, or have it here and have this middle section for assembly and so forth. But I can play with it when the time comes, because the problem is right now with the only bench I have, it's also the outfeed table for my table saw, and anybody who's had that predicament knows it's a pain in the butt. Anytime I'm working on something and I need to cut something additional on the saw, I got to either clean the bench off or shove it all to one side, and it's a pain in the neck. So this bench, the bench top itself actually came from the hospital where I work. It was a door that was being discarded many, many years ago, and I have really put a lot of use into this thing. Its current condition, I had some extra epoxy that was, I think it was starting to go, I won't say go bad, but it was starting to yellow. I wasn't going to use it for anything else, so I sanded the top down and I gave it a coat of epoxy. And it's, as you can see, this table has seen a lot of use over the years. I have a Wilton Vice, which I bought on eBay years and years and years ago. It's pretty good. It's got the, where you can pull it out and use it at whatever distance you need. Besides that, that's pretty much it. I have my upstairs. I built a ship's ladder, and we installed the second floor. I have most of my lumber storage is up there, but I also have lumber storage on top of each of my cabinets. So this section of the shop here, I left this area open to up above, and I have my, again, Harbor Freight winch up there. Now I'm not lifting up huge heavy items. Most of what I lift is going to be far less than 200 pounds, so that winch is more than sufficient to do it. It's held up there with some pretty stout structural screws, and it's mounted directly to the roof purlins. But it's been a real help when you want to lift some of the things I've lifted, some of the burls I've had. Taking them up the stairs, really not a viable option. It's much easier to lower down the winch and take it up that way. The floor joists are a full dimension 2x8, and the flooring itself are full dimension 2x6s. This shop will be here long after I'm gone, and I hope it lasts for many decades. So one of the other future projects I have, hopefully for this winter, actually there's going to be 2 winter projects I do. Number one is I'm going to add insulation to the roof and add a 2x6 member horizontal to my purlins, perpendicular to my purlins, in order to have a place to mount the insulation, and then I'm going to cover it with pine the same way as I've covered my walls. And then after that, I'm also going to build windows, hopefully for this winter, so I can install them in the springtime. I've got 4 windows on either side. I framed them in way up high, so I'll be able to get real good light in from them, but I won't have anybody looking in the windows inside my shop to see what I've got. The only way they'll be able to do that is with a ladder. But they're just going to be dead lights. They won't open, and I don't really need that because I've got sliding barn doors on both sides. I've got another project I'm currently working on. I've got my air compressor. You can see my sophisticated air delivery method is the hose draped up and over. But as you see over there, I've got the copper. I'm ready to run a permanent line from the air compressor over to my hose reel. Here in the Sandhills of North Carolina, the summers get pretty warm. And that was one of the good reasons for adding the doors on either end, is I get good flow through the air. But with that, I also bought a 42-inch barrel fan, and I bought one that was belt drive. I had a 36-inch originally that was direct drive, but it was like having an airplane parked in here when it was running. I couldn't stand it. It was way too loud. But I upgraded it to this year, and I get lots of air moving, and it's pretty quiet. It's something I can deal with. So when I have my Revo bench, this will be the area where more assembly and finishing will be done over here. That was one thing I had found, a rigid air filter, and that helps with keeping the dust down when you're doing a lot of sanding. You get pretty good clouds of sand in the air. But with that, I also have my dust hood that hooks directly into the dust collection system, so between the two it should help keep the dust from sanding down to a minimum. So here I have my rack I built for my sheet goods. I keep my plywood here and some of the longer boards that I might have. I built a platform to keep it on so it keeps the boards elevated and keeps them dry. So over here I have my chainsaws. I keep them stored here because I use them mainly for now cutting bull blanks and so forth. I still do a lot of cutting out in the woods behind me. I also have my electrical panel here. When we had the house built, I had a 400 amp service installed. I got 200 amps for the house and a full 200 amps for the shop. More than sufficient. My last house, I had like 220 amp circuits, and it was constantly plugging things into different areas, try not to trip a breaker. But now I don't have to worry about that anymore. So I ran Cat 6 cable from the house out here, installed a router, installed my Alexa so I can listen to music as I'm working. It'll also give me the opportunity to install a Fire Stick, and I'm going to put a TV out here as well. Thank you all for joining me. I'm glad to show off my shop. This is where it's my fortress of solitude. This is where I love to be as much as I can, and I'm pretty proud of it. So, thank you all for watching again. Please click like and subscribe. Look at any one of the videos you'll see here and here and here, and please stay safe and wear your mask. Bye-bye.